You're welcome to this international breakfast. Feel free. We're at home. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to learn a lot about business, about resilience in a volatile economy. So, right now we're going to have breakfast. I think breakfast is ready. So, we're just going to go at the back. You will be ushered to a corner. Get your breakfast, come and sit, and then we will start shortly. Amen. So you're very welcome. Breakfast is served, ladies and gentlemen.
really hacked it for me when I became a pastor. I used to ask myself, can you lead a business even as a pastor? Is there a space for that? Until I watched his life. I'm like, how does he do it? How does he do it? How is he running multiple successful businesses and also running a successful ministry? When I tried running away from ministry, the thing I asked myself was like, if my incomes of the business are higher than this person's incomes in business, then I'll leave ministry. But the moment they are still lower and his business income is greater, I am going to serve the Lord because he has probably hacked something that I don't know. And he recently asked me a question, is your company ISO certified? I said no. He said, what a shock. How are you doing business without an ISO certification? He immediately gave me a number to call, and I'm already in the process of certifying my company. So ladies and gentlemen, help me invite Pastor Chris Kawesa, the leader of Business Leaders International, and also the leader of business at Worship Harvest.
Thank you, Pastor Steve. Beautiful. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You look nice from here. My name is Pastor Chris, and I'm privileged to lead the business community in Worship Harvest. And today, but also I lead a network, a global network with my wife, Pastor Jean. And also a location, Worship Harvest Nakawa, location 001. Yeah, I threw that in just to create some anxiety. But you're very welcome to this breakfast. I would like, first of all, to recognize some people. I know this is a ministry. This business community has a ministry foundation. So I'd like to welcome any pastors in the house, pastors from Worship Harvest, pastors from Mavuno, and other ministries, our friends. In a special way, allow me to recognize the vision bearer of Business Leaders Network, Apostle Mose and Pastor Ari. Thank you so much. I always say that business people, all over the world, business people in Worship Harvest Ministries are the most loved. Yeah. We have spaces to learn. We even have a Sunday service, for business people. So thank you so much, Apostle and Pastor Ari, for loving us. We've learned a lot in this ministry. We've learned how to do business using biblical principles. We've been discipled in the competencies and characters of Christ as we do business. So thank you so much. And many of us are now leading locations. We are pastors. So thanks a lot. We don't take it lightly. Please take your seats. This is an international breakfast. We have people, of course, from Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, South Africa, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Zambia, South Sudan. So it's beautiful. And of course, Uganda. Ongata Rongai. We've been joking that we came to bring peace to Kenya. We came this last week. We came to restore the chaos, to get you back in order. So I'll tell you a bit about Business Leaders Network. Business Leaders Network is the community of business people in Worship Harvest Ministries. It was started by Apostle Mose in 2018. And really his desire was to catalyze the emergence of businesses that are investor ready and scalable, to take over economies. And that's why we're here. He threw a big audacious goal at us to have 1,000 businesses turning over at least $300,000 a year, or $1 million, depending on which bracket you are. And that's why we are doing all these things to see that that dream comes to pass. We have 3 strategies: creating community, like this, having breakfasts and other meetings. Coaching, where we train and teach people how to do business. We have different platforms for that. Zoom calls, School of Practical Business, and many others. And of course, the one that we are on right now, which we are pushing hard, is Capital, where we'll be able to support businesses to access financing or investors to be able to scale their businesses. So, we're here today to talk about a very pertinent topic. You know, we came last week, and the irony is that there are ideas being floated around not to have the breakfast because of the violence, the volatility. But we're saying we're here to talk about resilience in a volatile economy. How can we not have the breakfast? You know, so we said we shall have the breakfast, like it or not. So we're here. And this breakfast has been put together by teams from Kenya and teams from Uganda. From Uganda, of course, Worship Harvest Ministries, BLN Uganda. Our chief leader today is Pastor Tony Atida, Pastor Sharon, Solomon, Kahil. So thank you so much. And of course, from Kenya, Worship Harvest, Kenya has played a big role. BLN, Nairobi, Jean Mutavazi, and of course, Mavuno Church has also been very instrumental. So CJ Ruguru, I think I've seen Ruguru. CJ might not be with us. So thank you. Yeah, Ruguru is right there. Thank you so much. My task today is very simple. To usher us into this conversation, really. We are in economies where volatility is part of a businessman's day-to-day. All right? Like I said, you know what has been happening in Nairobi. Turning or changing a law can cause volatility, you know. We are in situations where all voting to are also protecting their investors, you know. Donors are cutting back aid because you've refused a friendly policy, you know, that either economic or social, whatever the case might be. So volatility is part of our story. But we must face it, and we must deal with it. So my job today is to introduce some business people here who are going to help us understand this thing and to be able to say we can actually handle volatility. Yeah, we can. Economy, I mean Uganda and Kenya, at least where I've been able to do some research, or because I know people who are doing business there. So many things in the past year have been creating a little chaos here and there. EFRIS became an issue a few months ago, you know. So we find that we need to actually face it because it's not about to end, but then how do we face it? Because it comes with opportunities. It comes with challenges. We are not going to stop doing business because of unseen changes in legislation. I mean, we had COVID a few years ago. Some businesses went to sleep, others expanded, you know. I remember in 2007, I tried to do a business in energy sector. I remember in Uganda, there was we had a lot of load shedding. And I did a lot of groundwork, got these investors. As we were about to set up shop, the credit crunch hit. So volatility can come from foreign policy. It can come from another country. A few years later, we saw traders in the city being evicted from the streets. Some stopped, closed business. Others went to the outskirts, you know. So a lot of things can happen. And don't think that your business, whether medium, small, or large, will be shielded from any kind of volatility. It can get to you. Even ministry. So we're here to talk about this thing and see how we are going to deal with it. Especially because we know that most nations in Africa are focusing on sustainability. It's going to come with a lot of changes, some that we want, some that we don't want. But what are the opportunities that lie in there that we can hang on and run with? So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite a team of people. a panel, the panel that we have that Pastor Sharon will help us introduce. Pastor Sharon, please come up with our panelists, very experienced business people who are going to talk to us about resilience in a volatile economy or market for that matter. So ladies and gentlemen, from whom we are going to learn today.
Good morning. And allow me to also welcome Apostle and Revma to today's business breakfast this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. We feel happier that you're here with us. Yes. And I would like to introduce to you the people that you see in front of you. Some of you might be wondering. Some of you have probably already interfaced with them. But allow me to give you a quick, short bio of who they are. Yes. So allow me to start by introducing the lady on my right. And her name is Angie Morenga. Yes, I hope I pronounced it right. She's a visionary leader, a storyteller. Yeah, we all like a good story. She's an entrepreneur. She's the CEO. Yeah, she's the CEO, like some of you here, of Kingdom Business Solutions. Yeah, she's a certified executive leadership and life coach, and a member of the International Coaches Federation. Yes, so when she's speaking to you, trust me, yes, she's telling you what she knows and what she has experienced. She excels at drawing out people's potential. Yes, and helping them connect with their life's experiences. She's founded and leads Purpose and Leadership Forum. Those of you that might be interested, an online platform that discusses life, career, leadership, family. Yes, and even more. And she believes family is the foundation of leadership. With her daughter, Alethea, being her first protege in this mission that she was on. She's been recognized in various places by the Executive Leadership Network, and she's also a pastor. Yes, she is a pastor. Yes, and she was the first of her kind to undergo the movement when it launched in 2023, and the marketplace movement at Mavuno. She leads the marketplace movement at Mavuno. Yes, so you are in very good company this morning. It's called the Mavuno Marketplace Movement. Yes, and it was launched in 2023, and they organize a lot of events, as well as she organizes a lot of annual events that she'll tell us about. So you are most welcome, Angie. Yes, yeah, yes. And I will skip the gentleman on her right and continue to the one on his right. Yes, and just introduce Alex. His name is Alex Ruri. Yes, I hope Mungai. Did I pronounce it right? Rurier. Wow, thank you very much. Yes, and so he's a CEO and managing partner of Moran Capital Management, a specialist wealth management firm. Come on now. Yes, which was founded in 2011. He's a finance professional with a proven record of over 20 years. Yes, in senior management roles in accounting and finance, insurance, fund management, and international banking operations. So you're also in good hands. He's also part of Mavuno. Yes, so you're in good hands, like I mentioned earlier. He has a master's in finance from the University of Kent. Yeah, where is your master's from? Come on now. He has been engaged in numerous educational pursuits. Yes, yeah. I saw some of you not impressed. I was like, but these guys, do they know? And he's a regular guest on different investment and finance platforms, conversation. And together with his partner, Vera, who is here with us, they are family life coaches. You're most welcome, Vera. Yes. So you're in good hands, like I told you. And of course, allow me to introduce. So clap your hands for Alex, guys. Come on. Yes. Yeah, you're most welcome, Alex. And allow me to introduce a man that many of us might know in the room. Yes, but for that person, that one individual that you don't know him yet, yeah, you're going to know him today. So that one individual, so Angie, it's you. Allow me to introduce to us a man. He's a father. He's a mentor. He's a business coach. Yes, he's a lover of men and marriages. He likes marriages to thrive, and he likes to see men just live up their full potential. Yes, he's passionate about businesses, wants to see them scale. He's a director of one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in Uganda, Vine Pharmaceuticals. Yes, we like to call him director. In Worship Harvest, there's only one director. The rest, don't tell us they're directors. But when we say director, we're talking about one man. So welcome with me this morning, Director Grace Munyira, to the panel this morning. Yes. All right, so you can be comfortable. I don't know if there's a link that people are sharing out there. It has been shared so that our friends who are not here with us can also tune in. And so we want to kick right into it. And today's topic is really resilience in a volatile economy. And so I'd like to just start by asking you to explain to us, to just define what is this volatility that we're talking about in an economy. What does that even mean for someone that's out there, for you, and in the context of the country that you're from? Because the two of you are from Kenya, and Director Grace is from Uganda. So I'd like to start with you, Alex. How would you define volatility? Really?
All right, thank you very much, and I really appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation this morning. And volatility is a conversation which has been there for a long time, but because it's changing in its nature, it's becoming a more intense conversation, and essentially introducing what you call uncertainty on what happens. You know, a lot of times certainty and clarity gives people a lot of comfort. They can predict and plan what needs to be done, but uncertainty is part of that volatility in various areas. We have changes which then we can't predict, and that creates volatility in various areas. I'll give you, for example, we have a framework called PESTEL. So political changes, so political volatility is something that used to be predictable and now is becoming more and more aggressive. The changes are more aggressive. The predictions used to be every 5 years you have elections. Now we are pushing halfway through. At year 3, we are rethinking what changes, what decisions we made. You have economic volatility, and that is what you knew in terms of how productive an economy is. Things change. things you depended on, or businesses you knew to be successful in the economy, things change and how business is done. We are moving now easily to what you call share economy. We call, instead of being in mankind, we move to mindkind. So there's volatility in how business is done. People want to work from home. So there's change in how you decide to house your business employees. Are they going to be in the office, or are they going to be home? Am I going to employ older people? Are they going to be on contract? All these things are changing. So you have social changes as well. One time Gen Z didn't talk, now they're talking. So suddenly, who do you pay attention to? You think middle class, now you're thinking, hey, it's a generational issue. So there's changes in who is your consumer, who are you addressing. Social media has changed how you report in media. So there's changes there. There's technological changes. So there's volatility because the speed at which technology is changing, what we used to discuss things like VUCA, you're now talking of bunny, because the rate at which change is happening in technology, you can no longer predict what happens. We moved from volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. You're now in more brittle and things which essentially are non-linear and incomprehensible. The changes are so fast you can't even think what's happening. So that is the technological change and climate issues, environmental. There's a lot of change. There's floods happening, and those floods affect businesses in various ways, as well as legal changes and things that you have seen in Kenya recently around regulations and those kind of things. So all these things are causing volatility in that in my planning, there's some unpredictability. And that means I have to keep up to it, and my planning needs to be very agile to be able to keep up and be successful in the future. But the future success is what gives me comfort, and currently some are not comfortable, but others are very happy dealing with that volatility. So those are the kind of things we look at in terms of what is volatility and what are we trying to manage.
All right, thank you very much, Alex. Yes, that was awesome. Yes, I liked what you said. It's no longer VUCA. We have moved into Bunny now, which is a whole other thing altogether. Yes. Angie, as a leadership coach, how would you look at it? How would you look at volatility, really?
So thank you so much. That was such an amazing answer. Can you hear me? Thank you so much. That's a really amazing answer. I hope I can be different. Can I be different?
Yeah.
Can I approach from a different side? So I really love his explanation. There's no need of going into it. He's really explained it well, and that's what's happening. But as I was reflecting on coming here today, the one thing I kept feeling, it's good that you mentioned uncertainty, but I kept thinking this is a kingdom event, isn't it? Yes. So kingdom business, the one way that you can be certain is you have an instruction from God. If you have an instruction, that's why Pastor Sharon said that some people during COVID prospered and others didn't. I think one of the things that we can counter this volatility with is being certain and doing business with a clear instruction. And now I'm bringing the spiritual angle into it. If you know that you heard God and you know that this is what he's calling you to do, then we've got to keep doing it. That's what we've got to keep doing. That's, as a coach, that's what I would say. There's all the things that are happening and we understand them, but there has to be a counter. The counter is, I am certain, I know that this is what I've been called to. I have a relationship with my God, and therefore I know that this is how I'm going to take things going forward. So how I would counter volatility is by being certain. And the other thing is consistency, because I can only share from my life. I've been in ministry 18 years. Before that, I worked for 17 years in hospitality, 4 years in sales and marketing, and now what I've been doing for 18 years. So that math is what? 17 plus 4 is 21. 21 plus 18 is 39 years. But the one thing that I know, so being in the marketplace for 39 years, so one of the things I know that counters the volatility, yes, the volatility is there, but we need consistency, and we need to be certain, and we need to follow the instruction. And I don't know at which point I'm going to answer this, because I don't know whether I'm answering your question. But a lot of thoughts are going into my mind. The other thing is not conforming. So we can't have things that conform to the way the world does things. So the more we find ourselves conforming to the world, the more we need to give ourselves a wake-up call. But there are things that we need to conform, like taxes. We have to pay our taxes, because even Jesus paid taxes, didn't he? But there's a way that we have to understand that if I am called to do this business, and I'm serious about it being a kingdom business, then there's a different approach, a different attitude, and how I can overcome hurdles. Because life is about hurdles. But all that volatility is, how am I going to overcome the hurdle? But I think even answering, just from what Alex has shared, which is absolutely brilliant, is also just being able to know what's coming. And even you can know that through prayer. You can know exactly what you need to do. There are people who knew to close down, like I closed down my leadership training in 2018, November, without really understanding why. So it was just an instruction, and I didn't know why. Then the next year, COVID hit, and we used to do training in a room. So we recorded it and now put it online without really understanding why. Does that make sense? It wasn't like it was a clear sign to next year there's going to be COVID. No, but following those instructions, being certain that you know the voice of God, walking with God enough to know he is the one who is saying this. So if he said, I had people, friends who called me from all over the world, because I'd been doing this for 10 years consistently, the leadership training. And it was 30 seasons, 3 seasons a year. And now I was saying I'm closing down. And people are like, you're crazy. People call you from everywhere. But that's why, again, you need to be certain. What did you hear? What was the instruction? Are you clear? Is it that you're listening to what other people are saying? No, it's what I heard. And I'm going to be consistent. And when I now shut it down and went into and did it online, I was ready for COVID. So that's how I came over and started. So you'll allow me to share from my own experiences. Thank you.
Yes, that is beautiful. Yes, the situation is volatile, but there is something that's bigger than the volatility that can help you through that. And yes, and that's knowing whose you are really, coming from that point, the one that is guiding you. All right, Director Grace, do you have anything to add to that inquiry on what is this volatility we're talking about, coming from maybe a Ugandan perspective? What does it look like? What is your opinion?
I'll quote Miles Monroe. Miles Monroe said that in times like these, we must always remember that there'll always be times like these. In times like these, we must always remember that there'll always be times like these. Volatility is not a new phenomenon. There have always been times like this, only that our memory is short. Okay. So when we get happy, we forget all the bad times. And savings go to the hot place, and we just eat. You see? So this is the thing. We must always remember that there'll always be times like these. There is, I think it was Rick Warren's wife, when she was diagnosed with cancer. She said she had thought that the world moves through cycles, and said, you're happy, and then you're sad. There are good times, and then there are bad times, cyclically. But then she said, she now realizes that life is like a rail track. A bit of good, a bit of bad, obtaining at the same time. So you'll find that in times like these, if you're too optimistic, you'll get crushed. If you're too pessimistic, you'll die. You need to have the pragmatism to hold two views at the same time, without necessarily falling in love with the one you want to have. I think that's the one Jim Collins calls the Stockdale paradox. To confront the brutal facts, but also have unwavering faith that these two will pass. I'm told that by the time you're 35, you'll have lost or change your job 3 times. In between, you will have had no job. How do you handle such a level of uncertainty? And you see, we must plan for uncertainty at perhaps 3 levels. One, personal crisis. Because you could have a personal crisis when the rest of the world is flourishing. You could have a national crisis when the rest of the region is flourishing. Africa is classified as a way. I think for me it is this. Know that crisis is not new. Crisis will come. Crisis will be here. But good times will also come. And what we do in the good times will determine how we will thrive or how we will go through the bad times. Some companies inevitably will have to die. Because when the times were good, they actually did nothing. You will reap what you sowed. There is no way of preventing that. So if you didn't put in place any measures, then you must pray for your company and have a requiem mass for it and bid it farewell. And then you learn. You learn. And in the next round, you'll be better. One thing I have to add is I was reading about these, and then they said the one thing that is true is that right now the crisis, whatever it is, will come a little bit sooner, a little bit faster than they used to. So there used to be about a 7 to 10 year cycle, but now they're thinking maybe every 5 years you'll have some form of crisis.
Wow. Thank you very much, Director Grace. Thank you for explaining that to us, really, that these things will always be with us. Even the Lord mentioned it, the trials and tribulations, you will face those, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. And even in the Bible, we see many people that went through volatile times. Even Jesus went through some volatile times. I mean, they wanted to kill him. Yeah? So I don't think anyone wants to kill you. Maybe they do, but I don't think you're facing death to that extent. So Jesus went through even tougher times, volatile times, than we did, or than we are going through. So thank you very much, Director. Like you said, sometimes we just forget when things pass, when we are feeling happy. But these times are always there. So over to you, Alex. Because the topic really is resilience in this volatile economy. Resilience really is the capacity to withstand, to recover, to get back up and continue even through the time, so that the thing doesn't kill you, really. So what are some of the strategies in your experience, and based on maybe businesses you've seen, what have some of these people done that you feel people could benefit from? Because yes, we all know what is happening, but now we want to say, how do we build the resilience? What do we do? So as a finance expert, what are some of the things businesses could do to be able to build this resilience and survive, even as we wait for, for this wave to ride this storm into something else? Yeah.
Oh, thanks. So the first thing you want as a business is to build a team that is constantly checking what is changing. You want a team that is constantly checking what's going on, and then monitor what those changes are and how your business is going to respond to them currently and in the future. Because some changes require long-term planning, some you can make immediate changes. So first of all, you need a team that is constantly monitoring what are the changes. That's very important. Now, for me, from a finance space, there are 2 areas you need to manage. The cash flow, your balance sheet, needs to be able to respond to changes. That means you need to have the financial resilience to be able to overcome. I'm sitting here and there's a lot of pastors. I deal with a lot of churches. And one of the greatest challenges during COVID was seeing pastors not getting paid. In Kenya, some of the churches have invested heavily in real estate. And at that point, you found that people have stayed home. People are moving from offices, they're staying home. So these offices, they don't pay as good rent that they used to. And some of them have, I dare say, tenants who are generally lawyers a lot around Upper Hill and those kind of places where the rents were very premium. Now, during COVID, you try to take your tenant to court for not paying rent. Your tenant is a lawyer. He's saying good luck with that. So you're not going to sustain, all right? So the question we then had to address for them is portfolio structure. Because in your business, in your activities, there is something called other lines of income. The question was, what are the other lines? If you look at investing, if you invested in the stock market during a crisis, most likely it's not where you're going to turn to. If you invest in various areas, so you need to understand which are the defensive areas despite a crisis. Yeah. So when you think of some assets you can put in to your portfolio to defend, because I understand maybe a business runs 100 million a year, 10 million a year, 5 million a year in revenue, or $1 billion a year. One of the things you should be building as a defensive system is assets in your fixed income portfolio. For example, your percent. But you've got to know one of your key assets is your staff. And if you cannot pay your staff, your business will tank. So one of the key things we look for in resilience is either your product can be able to withstand. People in the financial technology space are able to withstand that kind of thing. People in payment systems are able to withstand, because the moment you all go home, the one thing you need to do is pay online and those kind of things. So which business are you evaluating that you can invest in and be able to be resilient despite the cycle? As my good friend has stated, cycles are 5 to 7 years. That's what we used to know. Yeah. So you could plan for 5 to 7 year cycles, but now you're finding shorter term cycles, and God has given you the wisdom. In fact, even as we pray, God asks himself, but I gave you the knowledge. You're not applying it. Some of the knowledge is right in front of you. If you're going to buy bonds from government, of course there's a question of, will government pay? But you always know that government pays on the basis of your blood, which is your tax. They either will borrow or they will print money. So they have options that have portfolio exposure to government securities. And we must also have to corporate bonds, diversifying your portfolio to make sure that you have this, as well as reserves in various areas, your money market instruments, which 5,000, you can put in 5,000 shillings every month if you're in Kenya, and you start building that portfolio so that you don't have to lay off things like terrorism and damage to your property during such a crisis as you saw here. You need that, because whenever a crisis comes affected in their profit, because during the crisis something happened, you couldn't make money. About a year ago, some people broke into the previous president's property, and they enjoyed a few of his cattle and sheep. And of course, these once they're insured, of course, when there's a crisis, you are able to get paid. So the question is, if you didn't have that risk management methodology, that crisis would affect you, because people ban people's hotels and those kind of things, and houses you saw somewhere last week. So you need to have that methodology where you have risk mitigated your business. But more importantly, much as I say you are, I sit and discuss from a finance-based angle, I am a very strong believer in God's ability to handle whatever crisis you're facing. So you do need to have a good, healthy amount of faith that God will cover your business. Because irrespective of what financial structures you put in and risk management, you generally need to know that despite all that, the person who's going to give you the cover is that blood of Jesus. So you need to have that very in good, healthy doses. And don't even be shy of that fact. When people ask me, how have you mitigated your business? Yeah. I tell them, by the blood of Jesus. The others are different.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. That's amazing. Yes, that is definitely our favorite point. Yes, because when you are talking about have a reserve, people are like, oh my goodness, I don't have a reserve. Yes. But we've been taught about having that reserve, yes? They're always telling us to save. Make sure your business has that account that you're saving. That's where you pick that reserve from, guys. That's where the reserve is coming from. Paying for insurance, it comes from the reserve. So thank you very much for saying some of those things to us and just reminding us and affirming what we've been taught over and over again. Yes. I would like to just ask Director to speak into that business that might not have a reserve. What are some strategies that we can use in these volatile times? How do we build this resilience if we hadn't prepared? What other things can we do? Yes.
If you haven't prepared, not violence. I'm thinking a few things. One, you lack vision. And many people think they have actually a vision, but they don't. They don't. They have a fantasy. And this will help separate the people who have been called into business from those who are masquerading as business people. There is something I believe that business is a calling. And it's a calling, and when you're a business person, there's a burden you get. Some of your wires get off, and you do very irrational things for the sake of the business. So I don't think that many people have been called into business. I just think that when you have enough money, you think now it's time to do business. No. If you've not been called to business, please retain your job. It's better to have a job than come and suffer in business. 2, management. Many people are not good at managing resources. They're just bad managers. Again, I'll quote Miles Monroe, who says that good management attracts resources. Whenever you lack resources, you're just a bad manager. It doesn't matter if your wife thinks you're a good manager, but resources are going down. You're still a bad manager because the results are showing that you are a bad manager. I think that when all this is said and done, you say for the one who doesn't have any reserves, get out of business. At least now you know what not to do. I have followed a few people who say, I started a bakery and, this thing didn't work. And, I thank God I realized I was not called into this thing. I went back, applied for my job, and I'm now working faithfully. You guys who are in business, God bless you. And I am not coming back into business. Number 2, I think for me, I look at it this way, that right now is again a huge opportunity for those who actually will buy out the ones who are leaving. So if you have ever thought about acquiring, right now you can acquire. You can acquire downstream, you can acquire upstream, you can acquire your competitor, you can acquire your supplier, you can acquire your client, so you get the whole value chain and grow. There have been many innovations that have come out of a crisis. But if you don't have reserves, the companies that have actually, if you don't have reserves, woe unto you. Woe away. Unto you. Why? The companies that have actually survived all these have had a mattress of cash. Even as a human being, you're bound to find challenges along the way. If you don't have a cash reserve, it will be very hard. Already life is hard. Now, you can just make it a lot harder if you don't have a mattress of cash. I think for me, the answer I can give you is that you will know the truth. And that truth will set you free from entrepreneurship back into employment. Yeah.
Wow, thank you very, very much, Director. You had it here. But what I like is that there are options. Yeah, there are options. Yeah, there's still an option. You can still get that job, but also there are opportunities. Even if you didn't have the reserve, the opportunities exist. It's up to you to find them. Really, it's your perspective at that point. And for everybody else that is tuned in, our audience, please, you can scan to ask your questions. There's a QR, there's a scanner there. Please utilize it. Ask that question. Use it now. The earlier the better, because we'll take them first come, first arrived. Yes, first in, first answered. So please use it. I know some of you are looking at this new technology. VUCA, yeah, it's up here at the Business Breakfast. Quickly scan and send us your questions. We won't have a mic runner. It will all be handled via online. So please scan and ask us those questions. Those of you that struggle to speak in front of audiences, we have your back. You can just scan and we will get your question. And over to you, Coach Angie. Yes, I know you probably have more hope for us. You know that's what coaches do, yes.
Wisdom.
What are some of these things that leaders can do really to build this resilience in these volatile times?
Wow,
Yes.
I'm really loving the conversation. Such wisdom is coming from everyone. This is amazing. I think one of the ways that you build resilience, I was thinking, is discipline. Because you see, these businesses have to be run by people. We're still not at AI yet, yes? So these businesses have to be run by people. And I believe very strongly that one of the things that to help you develop your resilience is discipline. Because everything they've mentioned is a discipline thing. But if you're not a disciplined individual, you're not going to be a disciplined business person. Yeah. And the other thing is you asked him for strategies. That means they have to be strategies that govern. But let me talk about principles as well. Because they're principles. Even the kingdom of God, it runs on principles. The world, the way they said it runs on principles. So you really must understand the principles that govern business. And from what they've said, one of the principles that govern business is you have to have reserves. I always like to, maybe I'll just go back to a farmer. You see, a farmer always, the first thing a farmer does when he harvests, this is worship harvest, by the way. The first thing a farmer does when he harvests is separate seed for the next harvest. Because he cannot celebrate, like Grace has told us here, he cannot celebrate and eat all the harvest. Because there'll be nothing to celebrate in the future. But you see, sometimes it seems so simple, but I think that's, even bring it down to your level. If you're spending 100% of your income, hey, you have eaten everything. How do you do that? So, because there's nothing for tomorrow. But sometimes, I think you can allow me to say that because we're all Africans, it's a very big African problem. I don't know why. We don't think about tomorrow. We live for today. And that is it. We don't want to know about what's going to happen tomorrow. So don't take that indiscipline to your business. But I also feel it's a journey that starts with the discipline of a person. Because those people then have to lead the business. And then the other thing about resilience, I was thinking, in terms of coaching, because as a coach, I would advise you to get a coach. If you cannot pay for a coach, it is very important to look, because I was thinking of the same thing as modeling. Because you see, coaching and modeling go together. You must look at businesses that you could model yourself after. So whatever business you're running, or leaders that you could model yourself after. And then when you do that, then you study what they're doing. Yeah? If it's a good person, you study what they're doing. If you can't pay for a coach, then find a leader who you can sit down, because what I love about coaching is you hear the sound of your voice. So even the things that you need to understand about the future, you begin to hear them because you say them out loud. Many of us, actually, if I could say 90% of us have the answers within us. 90% know, like Grace said, you're not a business person. You just want to go into business. You haven't thought about it. You are not called. You have no vision. You have no plan. You have no reserves. You don't even know what you're just there. It's terrible. So you have to think about it. So sit down with someone. Use them as a sounding board. Say, this is what I'm thinking. And then you talk. Because I'm telling you, we are such powerful spirit beings. And especially even more when we're connected to God. That you will know. You know, even if it's an idea of trying to sell yourself that you want to start this business, you will know that this is not for you. So you talk to somebody who you honor, who is a model, who is running a business, who is successful, who you want to be, to model your life after. And then you have a conversation with them. But I must say the other thing is, when you're not doing paid coaching, and if you can get a paid coach, go do paid coaching. But if you're going to get somebody to sound your ideas off and the things that you want to do, please respect and honor their time. Many people come without a plan. Maybe people come and say, oh, Pastor Angie, please mentor me. I'm like, no, what's the plan? How do you want us to do this? You come up with a strategy. Do we meet once every quarter? When we meet for that 1 hour, I'm coming to listen. So you better have prepared something to tell me. So that's what I would say. And I would say, even as an individual human being, I think one of the things that I'm taking from this panel is build your own reserve. Where's your reserve, Because those are the people who when COVID came, it was a volatile economy. They overcame it because they probably had savings. They overcame it because they also had savings in their business. They had individuals' savings. So they were able to do things and to live. Where now the ones who had eaten everything were wondering what happened. And now you want to be entitled that people have to look after you. You should have thought about looking after yourself. That would have been a good thing. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Angie. Oh, yes. Thank you for sharing that. The importance of discipline and just taking care of yourself. You want to add something, Alex?
Yes. Even leveraging off what Angie has said and what Grace said. One of the challenges we have found in business around the coaching is also in the structure of capital. Because what you find is that a lot of people, because they don't want to build a very robust plan on their business and be able to explain in detail through what we call grill and drill. They don't want to be grilled and drilled. They opt for debt in their business because debt, all you look at is cash flow. You don't have a bank asking you, give me your strategy, give me your this and that. When you discuss with people who put in equity, debt, of course, is a borrowing. Equity is somebody who's sharing risk with you. Business that gets equity has more resilience because we have shared the risk. Business that has debt, the moment there's a little shock, they are calling it back. And they will call it back with impunity, because they are responsibilities to their shareholders, not to you. So even though you explain to them what's going on, they will not listen. They need to pay back. Another resilience strategy around that is in the event you're in debt due to volatility, you're better off at the moment you realize you have cash flow problems, explain or get somebody to buy out the debt and as an equity investor, or if you can't get that, get to talk to the person who you owe the money, that's the lender, the bank, and explain to them to restructure your loan. I keep saying, and we were discussing with Pastor Noah there, what happens when you pay IMF all the money? Since we all owe some money somewhere as a country, what if East Africa and Africa paid back all its money? I don't know who will pay back all the money, but what will they do with their money? They lend it to you again. They're like, okay, just come and we discuss this situation, right? Take some money. So they need to lend. So the reality is renegotiate. Don't just collapse and hide under the table and then they come for you. When they come for you, that is going to be rough. But you want to push them before they come for you and tell them, can we restructure this from a 10-year term, 20-year term, find out who's cheaper, reconsolidate your debt, make sure you don't become the first to sink because you are not communicating. So communication is one strategy that is very efficient when you come to managing volatility. So your capital structure.
Yes, I like what you said. I find, I don't know who said this, but he said nothing fails like success. I find that even the people I coach, when the business begins to take off, they stop coming. And so they wait. Now, when the house is on fire, then they want an appointment today. Okay. So you say, where have you been? Say, no, where are you? And I come and meet you. So you find that we have a problem. I like what Andy said. We lack discipline. You see, we only come when the house is on fire. And that dovetails into corporate governance. Okay? So we are our own boss. Okay? So no one holds us accountable. No one asks you any hard question. No one asks you, are you up with the loan installments? No one asks you, how are you with the NSSF and URA and KRA? And so you find you're digging your own small hole, and then when the head is in, feet are out, you then raise an alarm. And by then, you're sinking. It's too late. I think if we are going to think long term as business people, then we have to put up corporate governance. And we are the worst. We are the worst. I don't know whether it's witchcraft, but there is something with the black skin that doesn't like corporate governance. We don't want to be grilled. We don't want to be asked any question. We will get one loan upon another and get from the circle and the money lender and then jump over, and no one is advising you. You just think you know until everything comes crashing down, and by then it's a person, it's self-destruction. It's a self-created crisis, and in that case, it's too late.
Angie, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that there's also an interesting phenomenon that we have noticed in businesses that had been in existence for a very long time, and then the parents were, or the people running the businesses were growing old and wanted to retire. And a few of the businesses, it's been amazing how they've reinvented themselves by their children coming into running the business. I'm telling you, people are closing down. Like, you know how a business can be relevant for a certain generation or a certain type of people, or even relationships. Because I was going to say, you said I didn't know I was going to insert my relationship things. Relationships are also very important in this overcoming this volatile economy. The relationships you have. But then a business will grow. So these businesses had been running 20 years, 10 years, successful, but now they were winding down. And these people are now saying we're selling the businesses. There are like 10 of them that I know that the children came in and took over. Those businesses have gone to a level that nobody thought they could be. So I know there are a lot of young people in this room, I think. So you also may need to try to understand your parents' business. Stop ignoring it. Stop ignoring it. Stop thinking, oh, whatever. If it's fizzling out, let it fizzle out. You probably have ideas that you could inject, but come with humility and come slowly. Can we say come slowly? Come slowly and come with humility. Because you guys now, sometimes you come too fast and too hard, and we're like, no, even me, I built this business. Are you telling me I don't know how to build the business? What do you mean? I've been here. This business has fed you and educated you. You were not, so they all have. So come slowly and come with humility, but think of ideas. Don't let businesses, because I think also learning to let go and transitioning into another generation, because those could be conversations that happen here. But even for us who are young here and starting businesses, always have that in mind. When is it that I need to let go and transition and let other people take over? Because you said also building a team. It's very important, because most businesses start as you as the only person running the business. Then you create a team. But letting go is very, very important. You have to let go. And many, I don't know, I won't say many, I speak for myself. I used to be a micromanager. And one day God sat me down and said, okay, what do you want? Do you want this business to grow? Do you want to be successful? Do you want to impact more people? Do you want to be effective? Then you have to stop micromanaging. There are many ways to get to Entebbe. Everyone has to choose the route they're going to take to get to Entebbe. And that's hard for... Airbus. Okay. I can see that conversation was at Airbus. Yeah. There are many ways to get to Entebbe. Have I just said that? Yes. So what you have to do is, if you find yourself as a micromanager, or you're emotionally connected to a business that you can't imagine anybody else doing anything else with it, then you're going to have problems. So we need to learn to let go early as possible, and let the people with ideas, let the people always understand you're not the cleverest person in the room. Yes, that's a good thing. You see, you have to discipline yourself. You have to understand. And you're not the alpha and the omega. It is not you. Yes? The other people who can do these businesses, identify talent. I think when he talked about teams as well, I think to overcome volatility, you need team members that can do many things. Gone are the days of a team member just knowing one track. Yes? They've got to understand how to do many of the jobs across board, and then this way we can overcome the volatility. But letting go is important, understanding transitions, even having teams that have different generations in them. I know they shock us, like me, I don't even know which generation I'm in, I don't even know. But, the ideas they come with, you look at them and you're like, oh my God. But try to maintain a calm face. Don't look, oh my God, and let's see, because we never try anything. Let's try something. There's something they know. So let's also give them an opportunity, and let's have multiple ideas at the table, and let's try them, even if they sound and look foreign to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I like what she's talking about. A lot of discipline, a lot of working with other people in there. And then innovation. Innovation is coming out a lot, which comes when you bring other people on board. They come up with other ways to do things better and to be able to overcome some of the challenges you might be faced with in business. Allow me to just ask Director Grace. Yesterday we had a conversation and you were telling me about sort of like the up in out strategy, something that is simple. You really put it very simply, that someone can actually do in their business that can help us really relate with our customers. Because at the end of the day, what we're faced with is, even as the whole world is facing all these things, our customers don't want to pay. They're holding back their money. Their buying decisions are not what they used to be. What can a business do in that regard?
Interesting. Thank you. Let me just draw back. What Angie was saying, one day I was in a meeting and were asked a question which I want to pose to the audience. How do you plan to exit your business? And many people realized that they'll exit horizontally, with their legs waving to the audience. But it's a sobering question, because you realize you will not be able to run the business forever. So whether you sell it or exit horizontally or bring in the children or whichever way, you had better think about it. So I thought about this. If you have a triangle, not like up in out, but in this time, the businesses would need one person who has these three. One, empathy. Empathy to understand what your customers are going through. Sachets were born out of time of crisis. So where people came up and said, look, no one will buy that 500 ml bottle or that 2-liter bottle, and now let's have sachets. These are small things that you can take a sachet of shampoo in India. Many of the ladies buy sachets. So you don't need to buy a 5-liter thing. Two, they realize that they need logic. It must make sense. Some people are running businesses as if they are illogical. You say, bring 2 million and every month you get 4 million. It just doesn't happen. And it just can't happen that way. So you have empathy, you have logic, then you have authenticity. People want to know you are real. In the world of fake news, everything fake. They want to know you're a real person. And sometimes the thing that we lack are real examples that we can see and relate with. They say, look, if so-and-so overcame that challenge, I too can overcome. The thing is, we see people who are hugely successful and we don't know the path and the route that they took. So when you draw that triangle of empathy, logic, and authenticity, then you're able to come up with strategies that will help you survive and thrive through the crisis.
Thank you very much, Director. I thought that was a good one, and I didn't want the people to miss who might not have had a conversation with you like I did. So, yes, so that's my gift to you guys, yeah? Director sharing from our conversation, yes. You've really shared, and that's good. And it's a very simple thing to do, really, having empathy, being authentic, and logical
and by the way,
thinking.
These all cost zero. So you don't need to borrow, you don't need to mortgage, you don't need to... No.
Yeah. Yes. You don't need to do any of those things. They are free. They are free of charge. And when you talk about logical thinking, have conversations with other people. You know that we don't like to be very accountable, and which, sort of hinders our logical thought process. Sometimes you don't have it, so it's always good to just go with somebody and have that conversation and see what they're saying. Alex, do you have anything to add to that? Yes.
Yeah, you just read my mind. I was just calculating when I'll ask you that this bit. Most families, and this is an issue I said at the beginning, Africa, the global wealth is about $204 trillion. I say that a lot. $204 trillion. How much do you think is with the people sitting here? Of the 204 trillion. At least I can tell from the table where I was sitting, there's a fairly significant amount of that.
It's true.
Yeah. So maybe check. But anyway, the point is, Africa accounts. Africa accounts for 1% of that 204 trillion. Africa accounts for 1%. That means if we are trying to build resilience, if you're going to go to somebody to help you, Africa is not exactly where you're going to for help. So we need to happily build that. The group that is very determined to build more dollar millionaires in Africa. We are 1% of the world's dollar millionaires. There is 14 million dollar millionaires. The ones with $1 million and upwards in the world are 14 million. Africa accounts for 1%. Now that means we have less friends to call when things are thick. Now the question is, we have to build more people for resilience. Just like climate change, you need to bring good climate in your environment. So one of the things that we find very important in building wealth and that resilience is what we call wealth symmetry. That means most people, when things get thick, don't communicate even at home, don't communicate in the business. We are Africans. The men don't tell the women their problems. They don't tell the family their problems. So you continue digging a hole because you think your people, your employees, your partners cannot deal with the fact that things are thick. But they can all see. They know. I've seen people made redundant and they still leave the home in a tie. And go, because you can't tell, okay, but that means somebody at home is also accommodating if you say that you've been made redundant. So we need to have what we call wealth symmetry. That means everybody should know what's going on. Just the same way I said you should tell the bank or your lender, and you should anyway be there, but if you are there, you should talk to them. But the other thing is to talk to the family. Because when things get rough and you need your business to be resilient, you need to cut back, what we call on having positive jaws in a business. You should always be increasing profit and decreasing cost, right? Those are called positive jaws. To do that during a crisis, you need to have a conversation with the family and tell them, listen, if we were taking Coke, we now need to take, I don't know what brand, drink water or something. Yeah, melon juice, grow some melons. You need to change brands at that time. You can still take your yogurt, but not, I'm not going to mention anybody's brand here. So if you're taking something, cut costs. If you're taking meat, you just need protein, get a bean. You know, like you just eat beans for a few days. I know that's not very popular in Africa, but you kind of need to. Is it more expensive? So you might say beans and they are more expensive. So the question is, what measures do you take to ensure the people in your household are happy to accommodate your austerity? Because it's a circumstance. It's time to change. We are not going to eat meat. We are not going to do these things. We're going to drive one car, not two cars, to the same place. What austerity measures are you going to apply? But then don't surprise people with austerity measures. You know, they didn't know this was going to happen. You know, guys just find half a paycheck. You didn't communicate. Yeah. So communicate that, listen, I'll give you half a paycheck for now, but when we recover, I'll be able to give you a bonus or something. You let people know what's going on, and you are able to fight off the volatility. So those things are very, very important. Have wealth symmetry. Call your people for an emergency meeting. Tell them this has happened. I've managed through crisis a couple of times. And one of the times that I've known it has been a challenge, it was the rate of response to the crisis. Yeah. We delayed in responding and telling the clients what happened. By the time you pick it up, they feel a certain way. Even though you have a solution, people feel a certain way. Yes. So I have learned now, make sure that the moment there is that crisis, the moment you see it's getting red, communicate early, guys can stomach the shock.
Wow, and I just want to jump on that. We don't seem to be moving away from this question. But I was just thinking, if the wealth is out there with other individuals, there's that path of the wealth symmetry, but it also looks like we might need to go get money from these people to build our businesses. That could be an option. Or from people who are more wealthy, or from the people where you're seated at the table where you're seated. Great. So now, I think that now brings the point where I was really feeling that there has to be an emphasis on your vision. You talked about vision. And being certain about what it is that you are called to do. Because the thing with money that comes from other people, it can completely change your vision and change your direction and change your business. So even because I think it makes sense, if everybody, if all the 99% is out there, then somehow we're going to need that 99% to flow into our businesses somehow, whether it's a loan, whether it's a grant, whether it's whatever it is, there's going to be a conversation because they're the ones with the money that we need, isn't it? So I think that's very important as we say this, that you really must be sure about what it is that you're doing. You must be very, very aligned so that getting of the finances or wanting to fund your business to make it what you want it to be does not change the vision and does not change the calling. Because we've agreed business is a calling. So it cannot, so you must know that's the certainty that speaks to uncertainty. You must know that you're called, you must know and be clear what it is that you're being called to so that you know what parameters to set. It's like a horse when it's racing. They put blinkers on it so that it's not distracted and it stays in its lane. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, Pastor Angie. And I like how you're wrapping it up, that it's important that you know that you've been called, but I think most important, who has called you? Alex earlier mentioned, a big bag of faith is what you need during this season, because really at the end of it all, God is still in control, and we have to, surrender the control to Him. Sometimes we fail to deal because we are control freaks. We think that we are 100% in charge, but we need to be aware of who ultimately is in charge, the one that has called us and loves us very much and definitely has big plans for us. Yes. And so we've come to the end of this part of it. I know they had a lot to say. Some people are looking at me a certain way, but yes, it's Monday morning, but we are going into just a session of Q&A. Yes, various people have asked, and so we'd just like to give an opportunity just to answer those questions that are here. I didn't mention earlier, but it would have been nice to know your name, your business name, and as I read your question, I have someone here, he's called John Wiseman, and the Wiseman has a question here, and it's talking, let me direct this to Alex. What measures do you take to maintain liquidity during economic times? And how can one maintain operational flexibility to quickly respond to economic shifts. So measures to maintain the liquidity and maintaining operational flexibility to respond a lot faster. Alex, do you want to take that right away?
Yeah, I can do that.
All right.
So we look at various measures for liquidity. And sometimes what's amazing is people run too far to kind of find resources to manage their liquidity. One, any business and individual has a life cycle. So, and in that life cycle, you should know what is your response mechanism. In some instances, when you're starting business, what can you do to manage liquidity? And that's where partnerships are very important, how you get into business, because you don't have the cash flow nor the assets to be able to go to the bank and get some funding. So if you don't have the reserves, what you've got to have is have a proper plan that allows you to bring in other investors to help you, that you can actually show up some shares in your business and be able to call in some capital. But you need to have a proper plan, because we are not going to put money in a space where, you know, we have other options to do something with the money, and yours does not seem to have proper structure. Yeah. When you are in the consolidation stage, so maybe that structure works when, if you're an individual, you find that anybody with a business, you are 18 all the way to around about 40 years of age, your strategy is really, you're in the accumulate stage. You don't have a lot of reserve anywhere. So it's no surprise, by the way, let's not be unfair, because unless you got an inheritance or you have a business that has heavy cash flow generation, most businesses at the startup space or at the beginning are consumers of cash. So you're not holding major reserve. So you've got to have a good capital structure where you have people who can actually, you know, that's where you find venture capital, you find all these structures which can actually inject capital into the business. You have to have good shareholders. That's what I'm saying. So when you get up the scale and you've bought some assets and that kind of thing, you find people have a lot of idle assets. At least in this area of the world, Africa, I dare say, a lot of people, the first asset they default to when they start doing well is what? Real estate. So you've got to know that at some point you need to start liquidating those assets and putting them into fixed income securities, because banks, assuming you didn't want to run down your cash and you wanted to borrow, will be happy to lend to you on a bond versus on your land. It takes a bit longer to lend against property or those kind of things. I don't like advocating for lending. That's why I'm very clear. I would rather be liquidating my assets which are idle, and you need to store up bonuses. You know, guys get bonuses and buy, what's the latest? Anything, Lexus, new one. I mean, I don't know. Why do you need the newest, the everything? I mean, those are things that you should do when you are happily generating excessive cash flows, not you're taking even the leverage from the bank to do it. I mean, there's chasing the Joneses. But what you're doing is essentially you need to liquidate idle assets. I dare say, there are times people have told me, but I have a property I was given by my parents. I'm like, listen, between your business going down, I'll go and negotiate in heaven why I sold that property. Me, I'm a fund the business. Yeah, and then I will buy some other asset later on and call it, I crossed the books, as we say in the industry. I just crossed the books. I moved from a property in the middle of Turkana and I moved it to an apartment somewhere here, and here is it. I can give to the generation an asset, right? So you should use idle assets. People have 3, 4, 5 cars sitting in, and I have a car, my wife drives another one, and even the kids have another one, and we are saying the business is suffering, we don't know where cash will come from. Hey, you need to switch up and then make sure that some of those things are austere. People have assets which they forgot. I find people in unclaimed financial assets. Assets have gone there from the stock market. They forgot they bought shares. And now they are very busy. And I don't know, the last check for unclaimed financial assets in Kenya maybe is north of 50 billion people's money. They don't know. Is money just sitting there? Relatives left their money, passed on. You've never checked. People have assets all over the place. You should, in any instance, if you're starting out in business, have a short-term strategy. You should have your money market fund. But if you don't have, you should have a SACCO. All right? It's a credit union. They help you. Because if you know your cash flows will come back, sometimes you have a shock and liquidity can go down. You need to think about it. It shouldn't be your first port of call. Yeah. But definitely, instead of firing and getting rid of your members of staff, you can always look at how to do that. So those are some of the issues that we deal with. Either you are liquidating assets, you have another line of income which can come from some idle investments here and there, you have a SACCO, but I think the most important thing is build a robust investment plan, business plan. People will be willing to invest in it if they can see the value in it. I will move on to that space for operational flexibility. Operational flexibility is very important. As you heard, my wife is here. She's head in finance and strategy. Vera is an expert in austerity. She thinks very quickly. There's one time I remember, maybe we went through just about 15 house helps in 1 month. I couldn't remember their names, neither their meals. They were coming in very fast, but she, doesn't do well with people who are not very precise. So she's high on operational excellence. So you have to have the thick skin to rationalize the business. And sometimes that decision is very difficult. But you've got to have that decision. In fact, when you enter C-suite, I'm sure those of you who are sitting in that space, one thing is your ability to flex the HR muscle. That means you've got to think, either I am managing salaries, I'm managing the number of staff, what am I going to do here to have that? But I also need to know which departments should not be scaled down too quickly, because then, we don't. So that whole knowledge of your business and being alert to what needs to happen in order you can serve the clients, but it can also serve the business in saving during hard times. You need to pre-plan these things. You need a business continuity plan so that when this happens, you hit that button, you know that operationally, how many people can I just have in this department at a minimum? Yeah. And that should be somewhere in a document for your business continuity in case things happen and things are rough. You also need to decentralize the business operationally, especially during such volatile spaces. You need to decentralize decision making. There are people sitting with companies in different markets. When you come to decision making and you need to make rapid decisions, you need to have people on the ground who know what's happening, and you need to be able to make that decision, not in head office, but on the ground. One of the banks which is very successful in this market, dare I say, that is their strongest point. You do not need to meet the MD for decisions to be made. And if the decision was made at the branch, I assure you, even though you showed up in head office and cried your eyes out, that decision is as good as that decision. So there's no changes. That decentralization of decision making gives a lot of flexibility in the operation, so that if people notice there's a change in product, there's a change in customer, there's some change, we are able to respond on the operation. So that decentralization, while most people fear it, has a lot of help in the operational flexibility.
All right. Thank you very much, Alex, for answering that. Wiseman, I believe you have your answers, but the rest of us have benefited. Director Grace, Shifra here, she works with Straightforward Financial Growth, is wondering, in these times, how can businesses strengthen customer relationships to foster loyalty and improve payment reliability? Yes, especially, maybe I don't like to call them that, but the smaller businesses, yeah.
How can customers?
How can a business strengthen customer relationships to foster loyalty, which is very important in these times, and improve payment reliability?
When you have a hidden agenda, human beings, we can easily sniff it from afar. That's why when someone calls you, sometimes you're like, okay, get to the bottom line. This call wasn't about, oh, how is the family, how are children? The bottom line is you're getting married end of July. Yeah. So you need my contribution. Okay. So it's not like, how is the little one? I saw her the other day, crossing the road. No. So, to strengthen that relationship, we need to be authentic. We need to be real. We need to work with the customers and see what is in the customer's best interest. There's a conversation we can have where we help them point out the dangers that they have. It's called a dose conversation. Look at the dangers your customers have. Look at the opportunities the customers have. Look at the strengths the customers have. Anyone who comes to you and says, hey, by the way, these are the dangers you're facing, and I am looking at things from your perspective. These are the opportunities you have. And looking at you, these are the strengths you have. I am willing to open my heart for that person, because that person is really looking at things from my perspective. Even when we think of adding value, many times we are the ones who are quantifying the value we are adding. But value is only from the customer's perspective. So if we start by looking at things from the customer's end, and we have their best interest at heart, then they will open up their wallets. Yeah.
All right. So think about your customer. What are his challenges? Where is he? And then, work from that point on. And you mentioned earlier about being authentic in everything that we do. And I think that's one of the ways when you think about them before yourself as a business, because they can smell it. Okay. Pastor Angie, someone is wondering how to cultivate a desire, that goes against the world, or that personal mindset. How do you cultivate that thing in you that will allow you to go over and above and do a lot more in cultivating your big goals, as a coach? How does someone grow that thing in them? That's what she's asking. He is asking, yes.
So I think that's a good question, but I think to cultivate, first of all, it's a process. It's a journey. I think it's one step at a time, one project at a time, one business at a time, one decision at a time, and just continue to be bold, to be strong, and to be courageous. I think also, I'm 58 years old now. And, it's like, there must be a song. It might not be a Christian one, but there must be a song that, if I knew then what I know now, I would live life very differently. So I think the way you do it is also have role models and understand that the things that you're concerned about now, that you think are so huge, big obstacles that cannot be overcome, they really aren't. Because like director said, these times will always be upon us. So you find that when you look back at your life, you've overcome so many things, yet you thought this was a mountain that was, I don't even know it's English, unclimbable, I don't know, unsurmountable, that you could not get across it. But you find that you have continuously gone through, you've continuously got through goals and situations and issues that you thought you couldn't. Why I've mentioned my age is that you really must also learn to have role models who are a bit older than you, who look at you. Sometimes we look with empathy. We have empathy. It's like, that might not even be a good one. It's like when people are newly married. And they are just there knowing that the whole world, they've got the whole world ahead of them, and it's always going to be like this. And you have empathy. But you can't be authentic, not very authentic. We have to encourage the people to be married and to stay married. And you don't even want to tell them about this journey, but just watch people who have overcome obstacles, who have overcome the challenges that you're facing, or you're trying to make this one step. Look at somebody else who's done it. And then we have a lot of information. We have books, we have so much social media interaction, we have videos, we have so much that you can coach yourself and grow yourself and psych yourself to always try to do more and to challenge yourself. And when you do something and you overcome that obstacle or something that you want to change in yourself, then keep going. That's, for me, consistency has worked. Consistency has worked. Customer, loving people, but not manipulating them, because the Bible says the spirit of manipulation is like witchcraft. So even in your customers and the way that you deal with them, make sure that it's not witchcraft, that it's not manipulation. But also, I would have said, start earlier. Start earlier. Be genuine with people. Not only when you can see what they can do for you, just be a genuine person. So I think the person just needs to start and to probably get a coach and somebody who can hold them accountable. There are so many answers. Accountability is important. This is what I'm trying to do. Because I don't know why, as human beings, we don't like to tell other people what we're trying to do. Like if you're going on a diet, let me talk to the women. If you're going on a diet, you are not going to tell that person who you know is going to be on your case. They're going to be asking you, I thought you said you're on a diet. So you're not going to tell that person.
You don't want that negativity.
Yeah, we don't want the negativity. We don't want the stress. We don't want the drama. So, but that's the thing with life. If there's something I want to do, then tell that person who you know
will hold you accountable.
Will hold you accountable.
Yeah.
And say, this is the one thing. I'm trying to get bolder. I'm trying not to conform to the world. Yeah. I'm trying to do the things that I feel I need to do. Because at the end of life, I think sometimes you get there and you find that you've just conformed. Your whole life. You haven't even lived yourself. You haven't understand who you are. Maybe you could even do, I don't know who the person is, but maybe you could even say, some people don't even know what their favorite color is, or what your favorite food is, or what's my favorite conversation, because you just go with the flow. So it's an opportunity also for yourself to find out who you are by just trying different things. Who am I? What do I like? Why do I think this way? Why do I value what I value? And back to Director Grace, why am I in this business? Because it's a business breakfast. Why are we doing this? Keep answering the why, the what, the how, and keep pushing yourself to do braver and bolder things. Because I think even that, I think we live our lives for other people. And it's something that the earlier we stop it, the better. That's why we don't share. You wear the tie and still go to work. Because you're living life for other people. You're not actually living life for yourself and as God created you.
Wow, thank you very much. And I think she has wrapped it up well. You do not live for yourself or other people, but really for God at the end of the day and his ultimate desire for you and his purpose when he created you. That's ultimately the most important person to live your life for, because in it all, you'll be able to overcome if you're living for the one who created you, because he knows why he created you ultimately. So thank you very, very much. So many questions, but so little time as always. But our panelists are still around, yes? So if you can interact with them and network with them, ask them those questions. All of you, thank you so much for sending your questions. I will give them your phone numbers to respond to you privately. For those of you that might be shy, they might be able to talk to you and be able to advise you. But allow me, please let us thank our panelists. Thank you very much, Director, Pastor Angie, Alex. Thank you very much for giving us your time, for being here, for sharing with us. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. MC.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.
One more time, let us celebrate our panelists. What a blessing. Let us clap for them as they take. I think they'll have a picture moment. Wonderful. Amazing wisdom that has been shared. As the picture is being taken, ask your neighbor, what's your action point from this talk? Ask them, what's your action point? Are you going to buy some government bonds? Wonderful. It was shocking to learn that banks are quick to give someone who has a bond than a property, than land. So, next time you see that advert in the papers, please engage a financial consultant to actually buy a bond. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite Pastor Chris Kawesa for the next session.
Great. Let's have our seats, ladies and gentlemen. Wasn't that a beautiful discussion? I hope we've learned a lot from it. All right? So I would like us to actually just stand up. Just stand up one more time. We are going to hear from our keynote speaker today, the vision bearer of Business Leaders Network, the apostle of Worship Harvest Ministries, who, like I said earlier, loves us so much, avails all opportunities for us, learning opportunities, and many others, so that we can be strong business people. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Apostle Mose.
Wow. Thank you, Pastor Chris. Please have your seats. We are just going to have a short conversation. No, I think we had the conversation. Could someone help me move this more forward? Actually, maybe I don't need it. Just move it back. First of all, can we appreciate our panelists one more time? Angie, Alex, and Director Grace, thank you so much. I've already made some personal decisions. Yeah, in light of the conversation we've had. If you could just hold on a little bit so that we can finish, then we go mara moja. Is that correct, Swahili? I've been practicing my Swahili the whole weekend, and I can tell you I'm a lot better than when we arrived. You can tell. Wow. So thank you so much, Pastor Chris, for the BLN and the team that you're working with. Can we appreciate them for bringing us together and making sure that we are getting better at this thing called business? Yeah. And wow, as for Alex, he's tortured us. He's saying a global wealth is, I have my numbers here, 204 trillion. And the whole continent from Cape Town to Cairo only contributes 1%. And then he said, how many dollar millionaires are there? 14 million, of which Africa contributes 1%. And at this point, it is important to find out how many of the 1% are at your table. What's the net worth at the table? This is what Angie was saying. We don't want to talk about what we are doing. Everyone keeps it top secret. So we need to start wrestling with these things. Do you know that a kid who was first or second in class and they have their report going home, they don't hide it? I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that when you have a certain report card, you keep showing your friends. You see? But some other guys are telling, how was it? How did you do? They're like, don't talk to me. So I don't know why your neighbor does not want to engage in this conversation. It's like, the more I go on, the more annoyed they are looking. It's getting personal. Now, so that might be the bad news, the 1%. The good news, though, is we are alive. I think the Bible says a live dog is better than a dead lion. Meaning we can actually start to do something about it. But to do something about it, we need to have something to do about it. Right? And so our panelists have really helped us. You know, one of those times when they gave Director Grace the question, I was like, incoming! Take cover. Because the missiles are coming. But we are being helped. I think we are being helped. And I like the vision that we are pushing. And we've been pushing it in the wrong currency back in Uganda and realized now we have our Kenyan brothers and sisters, and Nigeria is here, South Africa is in the room, Zambia is in the room, South Sudan, Tanzania, and so we need to start talking using the world's reserve currency at the moment. We may not know how long it will last, but it's the one we have. And to say, what would happen if we raised 1,000 businesses with at least $1 million turnover? Why not? I think that would be wonderful. Because then that means collectively we can be doing $1 billion turnover. And then you would know that the people you're trading with are of the same mind. I think. So let's not shy away from these things. Or to say, what would happen if we had 1,000 businesses with at least 100 million worth of assets? Okay. 10. Let's start with 10. 10 million worth of assets times 1,000 is what? Is 100. Hmm? 10 million times 1,000 is 10,000. Huh? 10 million times 1,000. Oh, 10 billion. So that would be $10 billion worth of assets collectively. Yeah. Let's first forget Brother Elon, Bezos, and others. They are not coming to help us. We have to help ourselves. And I think at this point you have to start counting yourself in. That I'll be one of those. My business will be one of those. I'll be one of this 1% $1 million millionaires. Right? Yeah. I think so. I was seated there thinking, you'll never go big by accident. Yeah. You wake up one day and they're like, do you know what happened to your business? While you slept. Rather, Jesus said, while you sleep, they're sowing the wrong things. So we have to wake up and stir ourselves up. I want to share 8 quick things that we can do that will help us be resilient in volatile times. And I've divided them into 2 halves. The first half is non-financial, and the second half is financial. And contrary to what the people outside are thinking, I'm not going to be long. Financial and non-financial. So, and the thing about these things, they are not new things that you are going to say, wow, this is a new. No. These are principles that have been around a long time that people have used through the ages. And all we need to do is use them. Yeah, that's all. You know, it's interesting how some of these unfancy, non-innovative things are super, super important. Like the heartbeat. You just want it to continue uninterrupted. Don't say like, no, aorta is to the left ventricle, whatever. No, it just every how many beats per minute? 72 to a certain number, depending on whether you take coffee or not. And that's it. Breathing, so old-fashioned. Analog, so analog. Don't digitize it. Let me get to my points. The first one, separate the entities. Separate yourself from your business. This has been an ongoing fight in BLN back in Uganda. I don't know how it is in Kenya. But the whole idea that you and the business are one and the same, we are finished. We are finished. Because when you catch a fever, the business has caught a fever. So, before we talk about anything else, I believe we need to deal with this elephant in the room. The separation of entities. Which also means that money doesn't just move from you to the business and the business to you without proper documentation and authorization. Yeah. You know, all the business. This is a kingdom event. We were reminded, and we all know we are stewards. Yeah, and everyone is going to chase and run away from a pastor who takes the church money and uses it as personal money, aren't we? Yeah. If you find out that I touched yesterday's offering and used it for personal use, what are you going to do? Oh, there is going to be a riot in the church. But why isn't there, you're going to say, reject this business of using church money for personal whatever. But why isn't there a riot in your business when you're using the business money for personal affairs? Yeah. If you think that the pastor has to separate their money from the church, why aren't you separating yours from the business? We all know that the worst pastors are the ones who can't separate money from their personal wealth from the church wealth. So for by extension, the worst business people are the ones who cannot separate their personal money from the business money. And the worst government officials are the ones who cannot separate the country's money from their personal money. And we're together on that. Give me a verse. For me, I'm teaching from the Bible, so 1 Chronicles 29:3. Moreover, because I have set my affection on the house of my God, this was King David, I have given to the house of my God, over and above all that I have prepared for the holy house, my own special treasure of gold and silver. He was giving from his own, not the government treasury. David wasn't making a contribution to the temple from the government treasury. It was from his own account. He wasn't saying as the king. No. It's as an individual. Thank you for that. Understand. So even David understood that there's a difference between my money and the kingdom money. But this separation of entities has become problematic for business people here. That's why the director guest was telling us, decide how you will live. Horizontally or vertically. And the thing that's going to make you live horizontally is this failure to separate the entities. Because then you can't be separated from the thing. You're so kind. So, separate entities. I will say this thing until I go to heaven. Yeah. And that's not soon. So you're going to hear it and hear it and hear it until you do it. Yeah. I think even God is opposed to this whole idea of people who cannot separate entities. That's why he's keeping you small. Yeah, that's why your thing is small. You show me, you say, no, me and my mix, the whatever, but my business is on the stock market. Where is it? Yeah, to go to the stock market, you have to have systems. So that's point one. I'm overstressing it. Point two, I told you it's going to be short. Go big. Go big and multiply. Go big and multiply. Genesis 1:28. God bless them and say, be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it. You see, we are talking about volatility. The biggest waves you'll ever find are out in the ocean. Forget the little ripples you've seen at your local river. That's why they are what they call ocean-going vessels. And they are not small. Your fishing boat with 2 oars, you cannot start rowing to Australia from Mombasa. Just the size of the vessel means it cannot withstand certain levels of volatility. When there are economic crises, while the small people are going out of business, the big people are being, the governments are giving money to the big people to make sure they remain. They are being subsidized. So are you the one who is going to be subsidized in a crisis, or are you the one who is going to be out of business? And I can submerged, subsidized or submerged. Check with your neighbor. Tell them, are you going to be subsidized or submerged? And I can tell you this, it's going to simply depend on what size you are. Oh yes. One time, I was talking to Bishop Doug. And I was telling him that we were having some challenges with the church in our country because some people from other places had decided they wanted to bomb the churches. And so now we are having to institute security measures, which of course look so good for churchgoers that you're coming to church, but it's like you're entering a military barracks. And he said, that's why you need to be in many countries, so that when there's trouble in one place, you are thriving in another place. Tell your neighbor, that's why you need to be in many countries. I was like, and the simplicity with which he was saying it, it's as if it's very obvious. How come you're only in one country? That's why you're going to have problems there. So some people are shouting reject, but because, you are in one country, and when the problems are there in that country, you're finished. As Director Grace was saying, while you're having a national crisis, other people are thriving elsewhere. So if you were in the elsewhere, you would be thriving there. But what's wrong with us that makes us think that our business can only be in one small kiosk, in one city, in one country? What are we going to do to change this whole thing? You say you want to make money. Go and make it in many places. Or you don't want. Anyway, you're Your silence does not change the facts. Ocean-going vessels are huge. Yeah, they can handle the waves. Little boats should only be used in amusement parks where there are no waves. Yeah. I said little boats should only be used in amusement parks. So decide now if your business belongs in the amusement park where there will be no waves, everything is controlled, or you're ready to go to the ocean. The reception from your side is a bit weak, as in there's like disturbance in the network. What's happening to the network? I thought we are using a common language, the language of business. There is turbulence. Now that you talk about turbulence, one time, my wife was working with a certain organization, and they needed to go to access a certain remote part of the country. So they chartered a small aircraft which seats two passengers, right? She told me, if you ever go into that thing, don't eat anything before boarding, because it will come out. If the wind is blowing, the turbulence is too much on that little thing. And then there are huge Airbus, A380. They are serving with chicken or beef. Chicken or beef. There are movies. There's a lot of luxury. People are walking around. And depending on which class you're in, you can even sleep horizontally. It's like turbulence. What's turbulence? Where is the turbulence? Oh yeah, the other little thing you can't stand, there are no toilets, there is nothing. You just sit in one place and endure it. So, son of God, daughter of God, where are the similarities between you and your Father in heaven? If you think God is a minimalist, go outside and look at the sky. And then you realize we are just hiding from our own DNA. So when you're big, turbulence is not an issue. Volatility is not an issue. Rather, if the government realizes something might happen to you, they have been willing to come and help you. They can't let you sink. But when you're small, you have to get out of the way and we help the big guys. 3. Those are 2. We can end here. 3, innovate. Innovate. And innovation is not coming up with something wildly new. No. It's just improving, tweaking, adjusting something that already is there. All these things are in the Bible. Genesis 26:18. This one, it's Pastor Noah Balesan who first showed it to me. And Isaac dug again the wells of water, which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father. For the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham. He called them by the names which his father had called them. Now there's this verse we all like, Genesis 26:13. Isaac sowed in that land. And you know it was in the time of famine. Yeah? And reaped 100-fold. And the Lord blessed him. And that verse says the man began to prosper. Continued prospering until he became very prosperous. But we never ask ourselves what were the factors behind it all. So let's go back to where it starts. Abraham and Lot, Genesis 13. They have a lot of animals. They can't stay in the same place. And Abraham tells Lot, choose. Our herdsmen are quarreling. You choose, and whatever part you choose, I'll take the other. And what happened? Look at what happened. Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of that it was well watered everywhere. Natural resources. And that's what he chose. What do you think Abraham chose? The bad ground. Whatever was left, the one that wasn't well watered. Are you following? Yes. You see, why do we have 1% of the millionaires and 1% of the global wealth, and yet we have the highest percentage of the natural resources? You see, that when it is working well naturally, it's very dangerous. Yeah, because you switch off your... We don't have winter. So people can survive with all the laziness and a lack of preparedness. So Abraham was forced to innovate, to dig wells to feed the animals. And Isaac used the same technology. So when everyone else was suffering from drought and famine, he was prospering because he had the technology of wells. That's how he sowed in that land and reaped 100-fold. Okay. You can pretend like you always knew it. It was supernatural, but it was naturally supernatural. Because we think that God somehow made these crops grow even when in the scorching sun. No. He was watering. He was irrigating. He had innovated. She went online. Everyone else was looking for holes to hire, and the holes are closed and you can't move. She innovated. How is your business using technology today? Do you even have a technology department or something related? Are you still selling door-to-door bananas? Okay. And please desist from all this big talk that doesn't benefit you. Show me what simple things. Tweak something. Because these things already exist. Well, I hope we can take this. Because, sometimes we just get into all this whole Elon Musk business talk. And, he's doesn't, you're here. He's trying to go to the moon. You haven't gone to the next country. Thank you for that thunderous applause. I can see that the points are blessing you. You haven't gone to the next town. You're discussing a man who's trying to go to the next floating object in the sky. Why is your business not in the next town? Why? Is it that they don't have money there to buy your resources, your things? Why is your business not in another country? Okay, you're going to say, oh, tariffs, trade, whatever, obstructions, protectionism. Okay, let's leave that. Next town. Okay, the other side of the same town. Between, to go from Riru to Earth River is 50 kilometers. In the same city. How do you expect, if you are in Earth River, how do you expect people in Riru to access your resources, your things, if you don't have an outlet there? And to go from, the city center to Riru is 25 kilometers. Earth River is 25 kilometers. Ongataronga is 25 kilometers. These are like completely different countries in the same city. But you are in one spot. Somewhere in Kangemi. You can see that your decision to fail is final and fatal. Like you have decided we will not succeed. Thank you. Innovate. Start leveraging technology. These are not, I try to put it simply because some people will say, that's a big word. Like there's one that was used here of redundancy. Redundancy cover. Huh? Cover. Take cover. No. Let's simplify. I will get to that part because it's financial. But innovate. Do something with what you have your core. Now do something with the core. How do you get it to more people? Simply. Okay. Yeah. Those are three. I said we are moving quickly. Because when I give my examples, they say, but you are a pastor. For us, we are in business. Who even has a bigger advantage than business to church? Churches, very few churches are successful compared to businesses. If we look here and say, church revenue versus business revenue, who do you think has more money? You guys. But you're here just thinking small. We are trying to do big things with little resources. Yeah, so innovate. Figure out how to get to more people. 4, get wisdom. Yeah, I think it says get wisdom, get understanding. It's the principal thing. She's talked about it, coaching and mentorship. As long as you're in your small world, you think you're succeeding. Go get around people who are going to squeeze your brain and show you that you are not even in the 1% that we are contributing as a whole continent to the number of millionaires. Or like just being here. And some people, they just like the potatoes and whatever. But some people, they are actually picking something. So you need to get around bigger people. Okay, not people who are thinking bigger dreams, bigger entities, bigger companies, bigger people. Yes. Allow to be challenged in your thinking. And don't shy away from it. Don't coil back. Don't feel small. No, receive the challenge. Yeah. I've been challenged by the fact that there's 400 what? 400. There's 14 million millionaires in dollars, and the whole continent from Cape Town to Cairo contributes only 1%. And if we brought in East Africa to say what is East Africa's contribution, we're going to find out that 1%, most of them are South Tip, South Africa, North Tip, Egypt, and a little bit of West Africa, Nigeria. Then the rest of us are there. Our little vessels are being blown. And you're like, I'm looking for equity partners. From the remaining 0.01%. Yeah. So you just start talking about heaven. Like, after all, we are going to heaven. Jesus said, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Not just wishing to go to heaven because we can't manage earth. Look, if we mismanage earth this much, what portion of heaven do you think you'll be put in charge of? Some of us here, if the part of heaven they give you, even find dust there. Do you know there is a part of heaven with potholes? You know? So let's get organized. And then they say, really? Who is in charge of that part? Like, we cannot tell you, right? It's classified. Wow. So what are the 4 non-financial things you can do to be resilient in the midst of it? 1, separate the entity so that we know what we are talking about. We are talking about your company, not you. Your organization, not you. So that we know what we are dealing with here. 2, go big and multiply. This business of I'm in one spot. That one spot, when it floods there, you are flooded. When people are rejecting there, you're rejected. Okay. 3, innovate. Innovate. Embrace technology. And 4, get wisdom. Now let me get into the financial ones. They're very traditional. They've been around for a long time. And they work every single time. Let me start with the one that will get at least half of the room leaving so that I can only talk to the serious people. Tithing. Tithing. How do you become resilient in a volatile economy? You start tithing. And I'm now not talking about the individual. I'm talking about the entity. That's why I said let's start by separating. My wife and I, we tithe. But also our ministry tithes. That's why we can never run out of money as an organization. So you should start tithing from your profit. Don't tithe the sales because there is some money that doesn't belong to you. Quiet. Is it time for quiet time? We are in quiet time mode there. Tithing. That's 10% of your profits. Genesis 28:22. This dude who was dangerous, Jacob, he's on his way to his uncle's place. And he has had a vision, a dream. Then it says to God, this stone which I have set as a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that you give me, I will surely give a tenth. Those don't know what tithe is, a tenth. He said, I will surely give. Now, Jacob was about to move into a very volatile environment called Laban. Oh, yes. Laban's economy was very volatile for Jacob. First of all, they gave him the wrong woman. Then he had to work another 7 years to get the right one. Wow, 14 years. Looking for love in all the wrong places. Now, then, the guy, he says, you've changed my wages 10 times. Goalposts were always shifting. Oh. But Laban could not sink Jacob's little boat. Why? The man was a tither. It didn't matter which way Laban swung the bat. Jacob came out on top. Because he was a tither. Look, this is the thing I've been telling everyone. And all the people who have enough, whatever, to listen to me and do it, they will tell you what has happened with their businesses. They are all staying afloat in spite of so many interesting things. Yeah, it just works. I don't know how it works. It works. It's in the scriptures. Start tithing. Whether you're a church, whether you're a ministry, whether you are a business, start tithing. And for those of us in church, your offering and whatever, there is no costs. The tithe and offerings, there is no cost of production. So you tithe 10% of what comes in. You can't say, you are not like the guy selling cement. The first has to give the supplier his share, then says, oh, this is the profit, this is what we are tithing as a business. Why are the Jews the wealthiest people overall? Because of two things. The tithe, even the one they call themselves non-practicing Jews, they tithe. And the Sabbath. Yeah, deliberately cutting back from reducing your working advantage by a day and your working capital by 10% has given them an advantage over everyone else. The people who tithe in America, at least they are 25% of the billionaires, not millionaires, billionaires. Look, for those of us who are Africans, you already know with this 1% business, we have not there's, it's like when you find a guy whose income is 10,000 Kenya shillings. Look, with 10,000 Kenya shillings a month, whether you tithe or not, you're going to suffer. So, you decide whether you suffer with God in the boat or you suffer without God in the boat. It is that's nonsensical to negotiate. Yeah. So we can't, we Africans, let other people argue about tithe, but not us. For us, we need supernatural intervention. Yeah, there is nothing in the natural we can do to recover ourselves. Yeah. Look, in my leadership of Worship Harvest Ministries, deciding to tithe 10% of all the income, regardless of what it is for, is probably one of the top 5 best decisions I've ever made. Yeah, it ranks as one of the top 5 best decisions. I think it's in the top 3. Yeah, and because I can't currently think quickly of another one. So I have to say, it could have easily been the best, but I'm thinking another one may show up which might be the best. So let me put it in the top 3. And as a business person, if you do this thing, you may find that it's also going to be one of the top 3 best decisions you ever made for your business. If you do it. Oh yeah. Look, if God willing, we'll be back next year. I hope to see you here. That you will not have been one of the victims of the volatility because you did not take this. Yeah. And when it comes to tithing, don't plan to have a board meeting to start thinking of doing it in a year's time when things are better. You will never do it. Look, when we started tithing as a church, our tithe would be, I remember one time we were sending tithe to a certain church, an Anglican church where we used to have our rehearsals. So these guys have been good. Assess, honor them. We had to write a letter. Do you know why we had to write a letter? Because the tithe, I'm calculating it in my head, was less than 300 Kenya shillings. So you have to explain why you're giving this money. It's so little, it needs explanation. It was the equivalent of around 230 shillings. That's what we could give as a church, as a ministry. We are not talking about individual tithing. This one, what were you thinking? We are talking about the church is sending tithe to another church. Yeah, that's what came in that week, and we are tithing it all to this other church. 230 KES with a letter on headed paper. Oh, signed by the pastor. Senior pastor. Now when I look at what we have given just this year, it's more than close to, if not more than 30 million Kenya shillings. Just giving to other ministries. Why? Because we've kept the principle for years. And I believe that they will come and will be giving $1 million to other churches. Okay, you say you are anti-tithing. Okay, you show us your reserves, because they've been talking about reserves. Because they say if I tithe, I will not have reserves. Okay, show us the reserves. Okay, because when he started talking about reserves, everyone went quiet. Point 6. Point 6 is the one you don't want again. Reserves. Save 20% of all your profit. Make it part of the company. This is what Joseph told Pharaoh. That's how they saved Egypt. Get a wise man. Give me that verse. Genesis 41:34. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years. 1/5 is 20%. Go back to verse 33. Let's see. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. And let Pharaoh do this. Appoint officers. A discerning and wise CEO takes 20% of all the profits in the time of plenty, which means every time you make money, and sets it aside for the days of volatility, scarcity. Because volatility, like he said, the only thing we know about it, it will always come. Are we there? 20%. If you had been doing this for many years, okay. So I told you, let's say, let me think. Let me hope we are thinking. I told you we have given out close to, if not more than, about 30 million Kenya shillings. Yeah, the Ugandans, your money is too much. So we are using Kenya shillings today. Because when you start using Uganda, you even looks like it's a lot of money. Mercy, Lord. So, give or take. What do you think the reserve, the 20%, would be? Now, yeah, that means that money will never be destroyed. And this is half year. So what will happen by the end of that means the ministry increases in value by that or more, whether we fundraise or not. If you just calculate your profit and 20% of it for the last 5 years, and you'd see where your business would be now. You collapse. But I think, I'm told Nairobi Hospital is really good. Yeah. Because you realize how you've wasted the opportunity to build a robust, serious organization. It's a little bit money, a little here. And then when all this noise we are making about borrow from here, lend, it is unnecessary. Yeah, because you want to expand, you have the money. You just said, last week, I had a crazy opportunity to buy a wonderful piece of land came up for one of our churches. I mean, I went there, I saw this land, I was like, we have to get it. But we are in the middle of building. Everyone has already made their pledges. Where are you going to turn? You can't call another meeting and say, guys, we need money for this. I said, there is this investment. How much of the returns from the investment is there since we put it? Just the return from the investment was enough to pay half, 50%, which is required to get from there. And let's get this. Now, everyone else is trying to look for someone to lend them. For us, we could just get a rate. And I was very careful. I was like, I will only get as much as the return on the investment, not the principal. Because the principal must stay there, and we have to keep increasing the principal. Now, why can't that be your business? You've seen a great opportunity, a door has opened. You're like, this is what's going to really take us to the next level. You don't have the money. Why? You neglected common wisdom that has been used since the days of Pharaoh. That's 6,000, 4,000 years ago. Proven. Let's finish. That was, 6. 7, create separate accounts. Deuteronomy 28:8. The Lord will command the blessing on you in your storehouses. That's accounts today. And you know which you set your hand to do. There's a principle they teach us in School of Practical Business of profit first and having different accounts. If your business has a lot of supplier payments, you must have a supplier's account. You don't wait for a supplier account and say, we are low on cash flow. No. You know what percentage you pay the supplier of every sale. Have a supplier account. You know what percentage goes to taxes of every sale. Have a tax account. You know what percentage is human resource. If you're a human resource heavy organization, have an HR account where of every sale, this percentage goes to that HR account. When it's end of month, everyone is being paid. You're not explaining. So have separate accounts for different things. Because the Lord will command blessing on your storehouses, your accounts. Don't say, there's a certain food they like here in Kenya. Let me first not talk about it. But when you go to a nice hotel or wedding or whatever, and there's a buffet, do you know what makes it nice? Every food there was cooked in a separate saucepan. They didn't get everything. Why are we wasting time? They didn't throw the beef, the chicken, maize, the beans, the potato in one pan, and they heat up and they start stirring. Now I'm describing some of your company accounts. It's like one big pot, and the heat is on. And people can't explain, what aroma is this? Is this chicken? Is this potatoes? What are we cooking? I'm finishing. What's the first point? Separate entities. Points. What's the second one? Go big, multiply. The third one. The fourth one. This is where people don't want to invest. You reap what you sow. You invest 0 in wisdom, you get 0 in wisdom. Okay. Let me repeat it. Let me stay here. You don't want to pay coaches. You don't want to pay for the business coaching. You only want to pay for potatoes and beans. When you even want to pay for the food in the restaurant where you're seated with your coach and mentor, like Director Grace. But you don't want to put anything to give him. In other words, you value your stomach over your head. That's why you have stomach stuff and nothing going on in the upstairs. Yeah. Is your business upstairs or downstairs? So how much do you invest there? Versus here. Oh yeah. When it comes to tangible things, food, you are willing to pay. Knowledge, no. That's why people will build a huge, ugly monstrosity. Because they were willing to buy the sand and cement, but they would not pay an architect. A proper architect. Like the one standing in front of you. To design it. But bricks, you will pay any amount. You're not negotiating with a bricklayer. But just for the plans, you charge that much. Why? Wait. African mentality. We value tangible things and disvalue intangible things. And we don't know that the intangible things create the tangible things. Five tithe, 6, 7. I thought this was really sensitive, but this last point, I almost have to say it while getting towards the exit. Eight, to survive volatile times and be resilient. Eliminate debt. Eliminate debt. Forget this whole idea that everyone works with debt. You are the only one who thinks like that. Yeah, they sold you. Look, the only people making money from debt are the lenders. That's why they have those huge skyscrapers. You have just stress. Let me show you a scripture. You already know Proverbs 27, the borrower is servant to the lender. But let me show you Deuteronomy 15:6 as I sit. For the Lord your God will bless you just as he promised you. How will you know that he has blessed you? You shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. In other words, if you are into borrowing and not lending, you are not really blessed. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, thank you very much, Apostle. A much bigger round of applause. Wow. Thank you very much, Apostle, for that session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out for this breakfast. I'll invite us to allow Apostle and our network to leave. Not yet. All right, we are still here. All right. I'll invite Pastor Chris to close the session.
All right, beautiful. Let's give Apostle another round of applause. Wisdom and nothing is from a textbook. It's all from the Bible. And we are Christian business people. I told you. Yeah, that's what we get. So thank you so much, Apostle. I don't know if you'll ever get tired of learning something new all the time from the scriptures. Thank you. You've been a blessing to us. So now the breakfast is closed, but please, we are here to network. Yeah, you don't rush. You paid for your breakfast. So network, meet people. Kenyans, now if people want to start businesses, there is the opportunity to find out who your neighbor is, what they do, and how you can leverage that relationship. Amen? Yeah, and finally, of course, the panelists. Thank you so much. Angie, Director Grace, and Alex. Thank you so much. You've been a blessing. All the organizers, BLN Uganda, Tony, Pastor Tony Atida, Pastor Sharon, our host, Kai Hill, Mavuno Church, CJ, everyone, thank you so much. The Worship Harvest Nairobi, Kenya, Worship Harvest Kenya team who have been helping us with the facility. Thank you so much. Let's network. God bless you. See you next year.
Oh, yes. It's a network of billionaires. It's a network of creating value. It's a network of providing value. It's a network of exchanging value, moving money across economies. So please use this opportunity to register. Thank you very much.